All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. All right, today's the third and final philosophy that's going to kind of wrap our introduction to the pursuit of better. It's going to wrap it all up for you, all right? Today's idea is the 10,000 hour rule. You've probably heard of this because it was popularized in a book, The Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And it says that you become a master of what you're doing when you've reached 10,000 hours of practice or performing it, right? So here's where it came from. In 1991, the Berlin Academy of Music split up their violinists. And they said, you know what, we're going to categorize them into three groups. We're going to have our average group, we're going to have our good players, and we're going to have our excellent musicians. Then they went back and they looked at how many hours of intentful practice those groups were performing and how they fell into those groups. Well, what they found was that the average group had about 4,000 hours of practice, of intentful practice to become better violinists, and they were categorized into that average group. They found that the group that was categorized as good had somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000 hours of practice, but the musicians who were categorized as excellent had no less than 10,000 hours of practicing with the intent to get better. That's a key word, the intent to get better. The big thing about this was that nobody had fast-tracked. There was nobody who was 8,000 hours of practice that was in the excellent group. Everybody in the excellent group had at least 10,000 hours. So what does it take to reach 10,000 hours of practice? That's about 40 hours a week for 5 years, 20 hours a week for 10 years. Why do you think we have our kids in club and select and all these, soccer and volleyball and dance and everything they're doing by the time they're 8 years old? Because we hope that if they practice 20 hours a week, by the time they're 18, they're getting scholarships, right? So it's younger and younger and younger because we want our kids, we put our kids through this without even knowing it. Because if they start at age 3 or 4 or 5, they're already moving towards 10,000 hours a lot faster than if you start them at 8 or 9 or 10. And by that point, you've already seen the difference in their skill and development, right? But we do this as well at work. You get into a job and you go in with full effort and, you might get your first promotion at or about 5 years. If you work overtime and you got more dedicated, you might get it faster than that, 3 or 4 years, but you're moving towards those 10,000 hours. Now, one of the key things that we discussed in Wolff-Davis law was quality, right? So if we know that we're practicing with the intent to get better, and I'm practicing moving towards 10,000 hours, then I've got an opportunity to become really good and skilled at what I'm pursuing. If I don't practice with the intent, we also get better if we're passive, right? So if I have an office job, which many of you probably do, your practice is sitting in a chair. So your body conforms and gets really good in sitting in a chair. And when it's time to go move, when you've got to exercise or when you've got to do weekend yard work, it's kind of unnormal or unnatural for your body because it's used to sitting, it's getting better at sitting, that activity becomes really tough. So that's going to be one of those challenges that you're going to have to overcome as you move from desk job to activity as part of this challenge. All right, are you with me? Now, when we're practicing with the intent to be better, we obviously move faster. Now, if I commit 1 hour of quality practice, I'm better off than I've committed no hours. If I commit 10 hours of quality practice, I'm better off than I have 1 hour. 100 is better than 10 and so forth and so on, right? So what we want to do is if we want to get better at something, including fitness and nutrition and wellness and health and happiness, all we got to do is start practicing it and moving towards those 10,000 hours. And like I said before, practice it with quality. And you basically fast track yourself. So here's what I want to share with y'all. How do we practice 20 hours of fitness? All right. I'm not asking you to go to the gym for 20 hours a week. Not at all. So let's say we commit to 5 hours a week of activity. Could be gym. It could be hopefully an enjoyable activity like riding your bike or swimming or something like that. But what we're going to do is we're going to say we've got about 5 hours of activity. Okay? Our goal is 20 or 20 plus, all right? Now, this deals with the biophysical component, how we move, how we exercise. Now, here's going to be something that's going to be really important is our biochemical or our nutritional component. How many times are we told to eat per day? 3, right? If I make a quality choice 3 times a day, I consider that an hour. Every meal is an hour, right? Because of the long-term effects of good food or bad food, you can essentially count it as an hour. So if I've got 3 squares a day and I do that 7 days a week, look at that. Quality nutrition is 21 hours on its own already. But let's say we give ourselves a cheat meal, or we allow ourselves some dessert, or somehow offset this quality. All right, so maybe we're at 18 instead. Okay? So let's just go with that. The third component that you'll see in the strategies is the emotional cognitive. All right, it's wellness, it's happiness, it's reading and sleeping, and you're going to get to learn a lot about those. But what if you committed to a half hour of reading on one night, a half hour of meditation or relaxation on another, and just found a way to be with yourself in a sense that you let the world go, and let's say you compile 2 hours. A lot of us have busy schedules. Now, if we work out 5 hours a week, and if we give ourselves 18 out of 21 quality meals per week, and if we do a little something for ourselves, go take a yoga class, could also be activity, but we also know that that's got an emotional cognitive aspect. We, like I said, we read, we meditate, we do whatever. All of a sudden, I'm now looking at 23, 24, 25 hours of health practice per week, right? This is where we want to be. And this is how easy it really is to practice and pursue a healthy lifestyle. Now think about this. Have you ever gone on a diet and not exercised, right? You probably had some success. You might have lost some weight. You might feel a little bit better. Let's say that you went to the gym but didn't change a single thing. You didn't change your sleep schedule, your sleep-wake schedule. You didn't change your diet, but you're getting better. You're stronger. You've got more energy. Or you know what? Maybe you don't exercise. Maybe you don't eat right. But my gosh, every day you're going to be happy as hell. All right? You might add 5 years to your life just by doing that. And I'll tell you what, the people who can put these 3 components together are your 24-hour turnarounds. These are the people who will lose 10 pounds in 21 days because they took advantage of this and they began moving rapidly towards this and this. They took quality in each component and they progressed themselves and they lost fat and they gained energy and they improved their health. And you have an opportunity to do that. When you're able to do that, we practice, we move towards 10,000 hours. We do it with quality, as Wolf Davis has asked. And when we're able to do that, we then begin to perform effortlessly. And we are back to our goal of sprezzatura. And then somebody's going to look at you and say, wow, they sure make that look easy. But you know what went into it. Does that make sense? All right, folks, your health and your future is in your hands. Take this and use this. All right? We'll see you in the challenge. Kick ass.